One, two, three.
You sing the bumper music.
Huh? Yep. Keep us entertained a little bit. All right. We should be live on the collective. Yep, yep, yep. Hey, everybody.
What's
Yeah,
up?
some technical difficulties, but we are here. We are adjusting. We are adapting. Right, Matt?
Yeah.
Um, So we were originally supposed to go live on YouTube. Nonetheless, we are live. We are here. About a 3 minute delay on that. So if you don't mind spreading the word that we have moved from YouTube, it will be posted on YouTube tomorrow. But right now we're gonna go live here. All right. So thank y'all for joining in. Look, you got anything to say to the people before we start?
Just welcome. This is our first collective Unfiltered live episode, and we're so grateful to have Matt to give us part of his busy day. So I'm just excited. I'm definitely excited to hear what he has to say and to hear a little bit more about happy living.
Absolutely. So now, without further ado, our special guest, Jesus, I'm gonna learn how to talk today. Our special guest, Matt Gesper. Is it Gersper or Gesper? Gersper.
Gersper, hard G.
Gersper. Gersper. Um, I met Matt. Matt is a just multifaceted guy, business guy, but he's also former athlete. So I mean, a fellow athlete. We're never former athletes, right? A fellow athlete. We He lives in North Carolina, not too far, but he has a business. He has a few businesses, but Happy Living, his company, it entails exactly just that. And in this time right now, when we're going through this pandemic, when we're going through a lot of hustle and bustle, a whole lot of fear, we got to calm it down a little bit. You want to be balanced, you want to be enlightened, you want to make sure that you're headed in the right direction. And this is the guy who can bless us with so much information on how to do that and some of his strategies that he uses himself and that he teaches. He's going to share that with us today. So thank you, Matt, for joining us.
Pleasure. Happy to be here. Thank you, ladies, and welcome everybody out there in Facebook land. Stuck at home.
Stuck at home.
Stuck at home.
Day 21 for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how shall we, Alexis, did you want to ask some questions or how'd you like us to go here?
Well, honestly, this is what I was kind of thinking, and I told Jamel this because normally we do have questions, and I told her no, Matt, he's going to come bring his energy. He's going to come talk about what he wants to talk about. I would love for you to kind of go back over panic. That right there, that was very instrumental for myself. And Matt spoke to our AAU organization on Friday, guys, and he definitely gave some value. I mean, we have some little kids too, so some of it was right over their head, but the parents were right there locked in. So if you could kind of tell us about panic, tell us about happy living, who you are, how, just
You just
and
gonna
what.
just let me riff for a while, huh?
Yeah, man. We just wanna hear your story and give us a little something.
Well, I think since what I'd like to talk about most, not as about me, but about what's going on with this global pandemic and the massive social alarm that's going on. People are just scared. Many people are scared to death. Many other people are saying, I'm not, I'm not sure there's
Right.
much to worry about here. And so about 3 weeks ago now, I got a call from a woman who had been on her podcast. A friend of mine, she does one called Onward, and she said, "Hey Matt, I'm putting together a group of folks that I've interviewed. The the podcast we did for her was her 50th, so she pulled from a group of people who she thought would have something to say about how to deal with this COVID-19 crisis." And to be honest with you, when she asked me, I'm thinking, what the hell can I tell you? I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a
Right.
little guy. But I felt like I may have something to offer. So I said, give me a couple of days to think about it.
Right.
Up to that point, I really hadn't. Up to that point, there hasn't been very much activity in terms of cases and certainly deaths in America. You know, in COVID-19 years, every day it's like, you know, so much changes. So 3 weeks ago, it was a very different world than it is today.
Right.
As you mentioned, you just started your first lockdown 21 days ago. So it was probably a little bit before that. And so I spent the weekend thinking about it. And the first two words first came to my mind. One was perspective, and the second was calm. And as I thought about it, and I'll go through each of those and kind of share my thoughts with you and answer any questions that there may be. And so perspective and calm. And that's kind of been a way that I've tried to deal with when something really shakes you, you know, to your core. If you can't get it in perspective, you're going to be out of control. And if you can't be calm, well, you're by definition, you'd be out of control, and you're not in a good position to manage things, right? When you're all panicked and upset and worried. So from that, I thought about, okay, now how can I structure this so that it's kind of provocative, that, you know, I might, if I say to people something along the lines that, well, I was thinking also, another word came to my mind was panic. A lot of people are panicking, and there's no reason to panic. And I'll explain why. I don't think there's a reason to panic. Let me put it in those terms, my position. So I thought panic, well, that'd be, boy, what if I could use the word panic somehow? And so I said, I already had a P and a C. So I need to find three more words, an A, an N, and an I. So I was thinking about it, what could be, you know, what could I come up with? And I thought one of the things that I needed to do personally was adapt, because in those days I was resisting this as an issue. And I thought I need to fully accept it. I need to listen to the public health experts and get on board. And so I thought adapt, and there's probably a lot more to adapt that we can talk about. So that's good. P-A, and I need an N and an I. The I was easy for me because there's two big crises happening at the same time. A health crisis, and that's COVID-19.
Right.
And a financial crisis. That's also COVID-19. And both of those are scaring people a lot. Maybe different people, but it's scaring a lot of people. Right. So invest, and one of the things about investing, and we'll talk about it, but most civilians, and I would call a civilian investor anybody who doesn't make their money, you know, trading stocks and in the biz, including myself.
Right.
Most civilian investors tend to pay attention to the stock market when it's really going great and when it's really doing poor. The only times it's really in the news, in the mainstream news, right?
Right.
And when it's really going hot and it's in the mainstream news, most civilians tend to say, oh my gosh, I don't have enough invested, I need to put more in. And they buy stocks when the pros are selling them.
Right.
They buy it at the wrong time. And the same thing, when it's crashing and it's in the news, they start to get panicked about their retirement, and they said, I got to get out of the stock market, and they sell. So there's some education that has to happen, both with investing in our health in this health crisis and investing in our future in this financial crisis.
Absolutely.
So I'm almost there. I almost have panic. I got to come up with an N, and I'm thinking, oh, as Jamel pointed out, we're all told to stay at home. Well, right. You can call your home a nest. They say when all the kids leave, it's empty nesting. So I got my N, your nest. So panic, perspective, adapt, nest, invest, and calm.
Nice. I like that. What you think?
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask Jamel, you know, you and I have talked about this, and I was just going to ask Jay, like, when you hear it, kind of what are your thoughts or feelings?
I mean, I think you pretty much hit everything on the head. And I think the two that kind of stand out to me, or I guess more or less the three that stand out to me, are perspective, invest, and adapt. adapt and then invest, because a lot of people have struggled to, somewhat adapt to just being in the house. And, with that comes perspective. Okay, well, I have to be in the house. How can I, adapt and have a little bit more perspective on what I need to do in this time? And, this probably would never happen to where all of us have time on our hands to really focus on things and put things into perspective in our life, and our goals and things that we're looking forward to. And then, like you said, invest. And part of invest for some people may be, okay, well, I need to really budget my money and think about how I'm going to invest in myself and my family in this time, but also, budget and maintain while we're in this period of uncertainty. So I definitely think, you hit everything on the head with that, when it comes to panic, but not in the sense of, oh my God, panic.
Right. It helps us, prevents us from panicking.
Right.
Well, let's talk a little bit about perspective. And one of the things I noticed is people becoming very, very afraid of the virus. And so I wanted to think about, well, how can we, perspective means getting the correct impression amidst this massive social alarm. So what is the real deal? How do we separate the hype from the reality of this health crisis?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm thinking about how do we, we're talking about death a lot. And on our TV screen every day, how many people died everywhere. We have governors all over the state talking to people about how many people died and how there's need for hospital beds and how many people died in the world. The president comes on every day and there's a death ticker, literally a death ticker that is coming into all of our homes and making us really scared about what's going on. So I wanted to put that in perspective. And so far we had about, I think we hit over 10,000 deaths attributed to the COVID-19 disease. Mm. That's horrible, right? We lost 10,000 of our fellow citizens. But if I want to put it in perspective, it's important that I know that on average, 7,452 Americans die every day. Now, are those deaths before COVID started, when we lost 7,452 people on Christmas in 2019?
Right.
Those deaths are just as important, right? So that starts to give me some perspective. Since this year, that's 715,000 American deaths. 10,000 to COVID, 705,000 nobody's talking about.
That's true.
Right? It's very true.
What's the difference? That's true. What's the difference? So it gives me a little bit of perspective. I also, you can put it in terms of percentages. I'll tell you just a quick story. A couple of careers ago, I was in this strange business called accounts payable recovery auditing. And to keep this really short, what we did was audit the bills that were paid by big multinational companies when they bought products, brought them into their stores to sell to consumers. They paid all their bills, and then they put all those bills in a box, and they put that box in storage. And then the guy who founded our industry said, okay, we just want to go look at your boxes and see if you overpaid anybody. And if you did, if you bought a bunch of Nike shoes, for your sports store, and you were supposed to get a $2 discount because it was a holiday promotion and you paid full price, then they would write a claim for the overpayment. And if we wrote a claim for $2,000, then as the auditor, I got to keep 50% and I gave 50% back to my client.
Wow.
Okay. It was a really cool business. It was really fun, and I could take the whole hour on it, but nobody would want to hear it except for a couple other nerds like me. But here's what's important is what we discovered in that industry is our customers on average paid their bills 99.9% perfectly. There was a tenth of 1%, not 0.1, a tenth of 1%, a tenth of a penny out of $1, 1 penny out of $10. That was the error rate. So how can you build an industry on that?
That's
The
real
reason,
tough.
the reason is scale of millions and billions is almost incomprehensible to a human being. We use the
Yeah.
words a lot. We don't know what they mean. Okay.
Right.
So a tenth of 1% of $1 billion company, and we had lots of $1 billion companies that were our clients,
Right.
is $1 billion. So if I can find a tenth of 1%, I got $1 million. I give them a $500,000. I keep a $500,000. I didn't get to keep it. Our company did, but that's the point,
Yeah.
right? So let's put COVID-19 in that context, in that framework.
Yeah.
There are 7.7 billion people in the globe, around the globe. There, as of about an hour ago, 1.3 million, 1.324 million COVID-19 cases. That's not a tenth of 1%. That's closer to 100th of 1%. That means that if everybody on the airways was talking about the good news today, 99.98% of everybody on earth is COVID-19 free. Right?
Yeah.
We are. We're 99.98% not affected, not impacted by COVID-19. Some of us are affected by it in other ways, personal ways. We're all infected by it by lockdown. So if we put that into context of the US population, 3.3 million, we're about 351 cases. And so that's about a tenth of 1%. Again, 99.9% don't have the disease, or at least haven't been diagnosed as having the disease. Right. So again, 99.9%, but we're freaked out about it, or many people are freaked out about it. And some more perspective. The reason why, in my opinion, that both the number of deaths attributed elsewhere, heart disease, 647,000 a year in America, cancer, 599,000 a year in America, unintentional accidents, suicides, talk about sadness, 47,000 a year in America. And we aren't marshaling every single asset of the government and of industry and of media to say, we have to stop this in its tracks. Right. That's just interesting why that isn't going on. So the reason I think we're acting this way, or a lot of it, is because of the media. And I'm not going to talk in terms of conspiracy theories or politics, just math. And here's the math. There's, as of about 2 weeks ago, there was 2.1 billion mentions in the media of COVID-19.
Wow.
And we're relatively early into this, right? I mean, it just started at the end of it's not over, right? We're just in the middle of this thing. I hope we're maybe in the middle. So let's compare it to the last four, or the four other largest media mentions of major health scares. HIV, kind of a big deal, 69 million. SARS, 66 million. MERS, 33 million. Ebola, 16 million. Now, again, where it's hard to imagine the difference between 1 million and 1 billion. All four of those combined, there are still more than 11 times the mentions of COVID-19 compared to all four of those combined. It's overwhelming. It's everywhere.
It is definitely overwhelming.
And yet
we live in an era of social media, so everything's more accessible. I think that kind of adds to that number too. Right. We didn't really have what we have now. Like, something happens, you can go live instantly, or you can have it posted instantly. So yeah, people are kind of freaking out, and that's all we see and hear.
So that, that's for me is when you put it in perspective, and Jamil, you talked about some other, setting other things in perspective. That'd be kind of fun to explore. When crisis happens to you, this is an interesting one because this is a collective crisis, right? Not only are the three of us affected by it, but anybody that's listening to it, everybody we know in America, and most of the people of the earth are affected by this thing. But most of us have gone through other crises that are more personal or family or community, and then the rest of the world doesn't know what's going on, which creates a different, element of it. You're walking around torn up inside and nobody else knows why.
Right.
So at least now where it's shared. But when that happens, I noticed, matter of fact, I wrote a book about this idea that total devastation often leads to major transformation.
Mm.
Right? It happens all the time. You look
Right.
at an expert in many subjects, just pick a subject and you find out while they're an expert, especially if it's health and wellness and medical, oftentimes they were affected by a disease or by something, and they came up with a solution to the problem, and they're all of a sudden an expert in that. They've transformed their lives because it was devastated. This is different because if I go back to the 99.9 and 99.99, most of us around the world are not going to be impacted by the health issue of COVID-19. But all of us can use this crisis as inspiration to transform something in our lives that we know, feel, or have the time to think about now,
Right.
that we want to try to achieve. So we can use the crisis without being devastated by it personally, and we can talk about financially also later. We can get the impact of the devastation without having to take it on.
Right.
And I think that'd be a beautiful outcome.
Agree.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at that.
So Matt,
yes, ma'am.
I was gonna say, touch a little bit on, I guess, how we could use more of kind of the calm aspect of it. Like for you, what's been calming for you, or what have you kind of used to remain calm? And yesterday it's 80 degrees outside and I didn't step outside of my house, and I was kind of like, wow, that was a waste of a day. Not a waste of a day. I got things done, but it's just like any other time, it's just like you want to get everything done on a Sunday. Let me get some things done early and then just be outside and be out and about because it's 82 degrees outside.
Yeah. Well, about calm, one of the things that I've learned, I spent most of my life in the business world. And the last 5.5 years, I've been playing Mr. Happy Living and the health and wellness and life improvement and blogging and posting and, doing this kind of thing. And in those 5.5 years, I've learned a lot about health and wellness. And the way I do it at Happy Living is not as a coach, not as an expert for sure, not as a doctor or practitioner, just saying these are things that I've tried and that are working for me, and that I can write about it and share about it. And one of the things that I learned is when you oftentimes you get sick because your immune system is weakened. And your immune system can be weakened by many things, by eating toxic stuff. There's a lot of bad stuff in our food system, by living in a toxic environment where nasties can get into your body, from the air or the water. It can come from a lot of products that are manufactured by major corporate entities. We put a lot of chemicals in our products. You know what the reason why is? Because we created all these chemicals to win World War II. Because we're bombing people we're making bombs and chemical weapons, and we came back home after that great victory, and we had all these chemicals, and many of them are in our products. They're in our home care products. So we're shampooing our rug, and we're putting toxins in our house, and that's going into our bodies. And so, and there's never been a study. There's studies that say, okay, you can only have so many parts per million of a poison in your product, and that's considered safe. But if I'm getting it from my carpets, and I'm getting it from my food, and I'm getting it from my drink, and I'm getting it from the air, and I'm collecting all these toxins in my body, nobody studied that. Mm-hmm. And so if our immune system gets weak by any of these things, then when it gets hit with something, it's harder to fight it off. And my personal opinion, that's why we have a lot of these weird diseases like Alzheimer's and all these autoimmune diseases that are relatively new. It's because I think when your immune system is weak, then the weakest system inside me is where the effect goes. So if my brain is not as strong as my stomach, I might develop Alzheimer's. Or if my stomach is the weaker one, it might develop leaky gut, or you catch my drift.
Right, right.
So the reason calm is important is because I learned this. When you have a constant negative thoughts that become chronic because you're home for 21 days, you're scared to death that your whole family is going to die, you're going to lose your job and never get it back, and you've curled yourself up into a ball and you're no good, you're drooling and watching the news, you're creating chronic stress inside the body that weakens your immune system, the same as all that other chronic or toxic stuff.
True.
So actually, if you are not calm, if you're panicking, you're weakening your immune system and becoming much more likely that you could catch the disease. So just practically speaking, it doesn't make any sense not to not panic. You must stay calm. And the second part of it is, it's a great thing to do as a role model, right? If you are leading your family and you say, look, we're going to get through this, and you learn about it and you come up with some of the statistics and you push back on some things and you listen to what you're supposed to be doing, but you're doing it all calmly, that's a great way to lead your family or to lead your community or to help out with your community.
For sure.
So that's where calm, there's a lot of other aspects of it, but the main thing I'm pushing on is it's good for your health. And it doesn't just relate to this health crisis. It's in general.
In general, right. Overall.
You're all freaked out all the time. You're all stressed out all the time. I was in business. I went after I sold my last company and went into health and wellness. I started this path of getting some tests done and figuring out how healthy I was. And I had completely blown up my hormones. And, the guy says, what are you on a scale of 1 to 10? What's your stress? I said, oh, dude, I don't have any stress. And he gets the test back and he says, you were a ball of stress. And that weakens your body. So I've had to learn that it's all these things. And then one thing, I'll just add one point to it, because people freak out about, well, I can't fix everything, right? I can't fix my home care products and my thoughts and my food and exercise. I can't do all of it. And you're right. They get overwhelmed. And what does that do? Create stress. So just pick one thing and do that and bring that into your life until it becomes a habit, and then do another thing. And then do another thing. And it's one of my favorite words in the world. It's called Kaizen. Small incremental improvements add up over time to yield big results.
Like that.
Kaizen. Yeah, say one more time for the people. Matt, one more time so they can get it.
Kaizen, small incremental acts add up over time to yield big results. So I'll give you an idea. 4 years ago or so, I was listening to a podcast or reading something, and I saw that sauerkraut is really good for your gut biome. Well, if you're not a health and wellness person, you might not even know what a gut biome is. And scientifically, we didn't even know until relatively recently that your gut is almost as, or maybe more important than your brain for your overall health. And they're very closely linked. And sauerkraut is very good for your gut biome. So I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, I hate sauerkraut.
I love it.
I love sauerkraut.
It was the only memory I had. I hate it. And so I said, I don't care. I'm not eating it for my taste. So I went down, I bought some organic sauerkraut and I tasted it and I didn't hate it anymore. Well, our taste buds change.
Right.
So I was operating on a 40-year-old memory, and that didn't, so I just have a tablespoon or a couple forkfuls of sauerkraut every day when I'm home. I don't carry it with me when I travel. I don't freak out about it if I can't have it, because you got to be calm. And so you do one little thing, and I'm still doing that. So that it just keeps building, and you can, over time, you can't fix everything, but you can fix a lot of things, and it'll start to impact your health and happiness.
Absolutely. I like that. Kaizen.
Kaizen.
That's the first time I've ever heard of that.
So I added something to it because a lot of people, here's a common problem with self-improvement or life improvement or taking on something new. You do it, you're excited about it, the excitement starts to go away, and you drop it.
Right.
You lose 10 pounds because you've got this new exercise program. You stop exercising, you gain back, and you get 15 pounds. Yeah. So what's really important in transforming your life is Kaizen, start small, do things. I'll add two things to this. When there's so many things to do, right? All of us. One of my favorite quotes, you're perfect just as you are, and you can use a little improvement, right? We're all that way, but it can always improve.
Right.
And so there's so many things that you could do to improve your life. Pick one or a few that make you really happy, right? That sound really exciting, that you know if you do it, you're going to enjoy it. Don't pick one that you hate, or well, you got to lose weight, and so therefore you need to start running. I hate running. So
Right.
do something different. Don't do stuff you hate because you won't stick. So what I added to Kaizen is Kaizen, small incremental steps add up over time to yield big results, and hold on fiercely with all your gains. Never give them back. If you never give them back, then all you can do is go up.
Go forward. Yeah.
Yep.
But don't go back. And if you go back, then double down and triple down. Hold on to that for dear life, because you got to keep it. Don't give back your wins. They're too hard to get. So Kaizen and hold.
Kaizen and hold. I like that.
I guess to wrap up, you just want to touch on what exactly is happy living. You know, I see you got your hat on, little self-promotion. But explain, what is happy living?
So when I was in the international trade business, we sold the company, and I was looking for the next thing to do actually before we sold the company. And what I came up with is I wanted to in my previous business world, if I had an expertise, it was looking at the collective intelligence of an entire marketplace. Let's say a group of workers doing a certain process in a large corporation, and gathering from that collective intelligence all the best ideas and creating best practices with them. And we put those best practices into software, and we help the people do their work for the large multinational corporations. Not quite as good as helping large multinational corporations become better. Woo. So I thought, could I do that? Could we do something like that? Develop best practices for people. And I always did business to business things. Now, could I create a business that was B2C, B to consumer?
Mm-hmm.
And so the concept was, around exploring health and wellness, not to recommend that say, Alexis, you should do this, and Jamel, you should do that, but rather to say, I'm eating sauerkraut. You notice I didn't say you should eat sauerkraut.
Right.
Not up to me to tell it to live your life. I got plenty of work with my own. So could we develop best practices? And my mission at the time was to improve the health and well-being of the world, which is kind of big. And then I added one person at a time, which brings it down to home. And as you know, being business women, you're supposed to have a nice tight niche, right? Mm-hmm. Your niche is basketball and self-improvement. And you can tell people what you do in a second. You see how long it's telling me to tell you what I do, because I don't have a niche. It's improving the health and well-being of the world. So I decided to contain myself and our small team with what we started off calling the 7 foundations of health. And now we call them the 7 foundations of happy. I'm just changing the word health to happy. And on the bottom of the foundations are what we called the 4 fitnesses originally: physical fitness, mental fitness, spiritual fitness, and financial fitness. And it's changed a little bit, because what I've learned in these 5 years, those are my fitnesses. Those are what I do to make me strong enough, healthy enough to take care of myself, and to have the capacity to take care of myself and to give to others, take care of my family and to give to others. So it's all about capacity. The reason I changed my thinking was a couple of years ago, B.B. King died.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody else died around the same time, but I was thinking, I always loved his music. And I was thinking about him. And if you saw the man, and he was not exactly the epitome of physical fitness,
mm-hmm.
right? But his whole life, as far as I can tell, he played that beautiful guitar. He had the capacity to take care of himself and to give to others. And he lifted millions and millions of people, their spirits and their happiness. So how could I, as a health and wellness enthusiast, judge BB King and say, dude, you didn't have it right. You should go on a diet and you should eat better, right? He lived to be 89 years old.
Right.
What I've learned is when you're doing what you really love, you create so much energy inside you that you'll know this as athletes. It compensates for areas of weakness. It overcomes areas of what you would consider weakness.
Right.
And we do that. We judge people all the time. So I changed those are my fitnesses. What I can say, if anybody listening, is if you don't have the capacity to take care of yourself and to give to others, it's going to be a hard struggle for you. You got to build capacity.
Absolutely.
The next two are love and adventure, and they're all about discovering your purpose. If you can really figure out why you're here and what you want to do, and get after that. And I've had people criticize me. It's fine, Matt, you sold a company, made a lot of money, so you can do this. I say, that's a fair point, but it doesn't matter. It makes no difference. I wasn't always in this position. There was lots of times in most of my life, there was more things that I had to do than I wanted to do. I didn't have the time for what I wanted to do.
Right.
And so if you can carve out a sliver of time, right? Let's suppose you love to play music, but you're a teacher. And so you got to teach because you got to make the money and pay your bills and take care of your family and all that stuff. That's you have to do. But you can carve out the weekends and play a gig back in the good old days when we could go out and play gigs and be around people, right? And now you can play your gig online. The more you can start to shift from 99% must do and 1% have to do to switch it 80-20, 50-50, 20-80, and all of a sudden you're living this life.
Yeah.
That's what purpose is about. And then the top, which we call significance, and we define significance as doing work that you love, with people that you love, in places that you love, that adds value and gives to others.
I like that.
Capacity and purpose, and the sky's the limit. And so that's what we try to do at Happy Living, is explore that.
That is awesome. I definitely like how you phrased or, kind of built your pyramid and the things that, kind of get you to that point of significance.
Yeah, I'm a little upset about COVID, but because I was excited to take our coaching staff to Happy Living House and meet with Matt and just talk and learn. And like, he'll be quick to tell you, like, he's not, as he says, I'm not a master of this, and he's not really just holding seminars, like that's not really his thing. But to be able to go to one of his houses that was built for overall health and wellness and helping people, I think it's just going to boost our organization to another level as far as our coaches and our parents. And now we can't do it.
We can. We just have to wait.
I know, y'all. Just let me be impatient for a second. But geez, I was looking forward to that.
Well, then we're going to switch your P to patience.
Yeah, okay. Accept it, Boog. Accept it. Matt, is there anything else that you would like to share? I do kind of want to share something once you get finished, and it involves all three of us. Just to put it out there a little bit, float it in the air, rap through. So I do just want to kind of just glaze that across the audience real quick at the end. But before I do that, is there anything you want to add about all this COVID stuff, about panic, about happy living, health and wellness, anything?
I'd just say everybody try to be well, be calm, and stay happy. Really do try to, I think if you keep things in perspective, we're going to come out of this thing, and be kind to each other. Just do something. Many people have a lot more time on their hands. And so there's time to do things. I guess one other thing, if you lost your job, if you're listening to this and you lost your job, I posted on my Facebook page, but you just have to go to Google. There is a paycheck protection plan this is really important. I think a lot of companies, this is for small companies. So if you work for a company under 500 people, the government has set aside a pile of money to give it to your owners so that they can pay you to be on, to take care of your paycheck. And if they keep everybody together, so let's suppose you have a group of 50 people that are doing this construction company, and they take out this loan, and they keep everybody. You don't fire anybody. All 50 people get your regular paycheck. The government is covering all of that and operational costs. And as long as they can prove they paid all their employees what they normally pay them, it turns from a loan to a grant. And what the government's trying to do is say, look, this thing is temporary. All our companies were doing great before we ever heard of COVID-19. The economy was roaring. It was the roaring 20s again. And what the government wants to do is say, as long as if those 50 people get fired and then they scatter and start looking for work, some of them are going to find work, and then getting that company back together is going to be a lot harder.
Right.
But the government says if we can keep everybody together for 30 to 60 days, which is about how much money we have, and for longer, they'll put more money in for longer. This is what they want to do, is keep everybody together. So what I wrote in my post today is, if you haven't been retained and you've been fired, at first I wrote, ask your bosses if they know about this program, but I changed it. No, insist that they go and get this money.
Right.
It's good for them. It's good for you.
And what's it called again?
It's PPP, Paycheck Protection Plan.
Okay.
Paycheck Protection Plan.
Yeah, and just to add a little bit more, I mean, they put out billions and billions of dollars yesterday. So what they did is they authorized the Small Business Administration, I think $300 and some odd billion. And then the Small Business Administration is working through whoever your bank is. So I'm just going to go to my bank. I have a meeting with them on Wednesday, and Third Rock Essentials is going to go to their bank, as Bank of America. And as long as you just put in, this is how much my payroll was for my average payroll. And then they're giving companies 2.5 times your average monthly payroll. And they're paying, and like this, it's like a 1-page form.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's no reason for anybody to get fired. That's an important, if we can get that message out, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, because a lot of people don't know that at all. So thank you for that.
I had no idea.
Yeah, we might have to cut that out and make that little portion a little post, informational post.
It's on my my Facebook page. You can just grab it, and it has a link also to the B of A. B of A is doing a lot of them.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll just go ahead and share your Facebook post and get that and help get that out, because that's definitely information that needs to be shared. Real quick, Matt, before we officially kind of head off, I kind of gave y'all a little hint. So we have Matt brought this great idea to the table that he had been working on way before he met me, but but being able to sit down and officially become a part of something where you never stop giving, and sports are always kind of impacting your life and helping to impact others. He came up with what is called Retired Athletes for Racial Unity, or RAFRU. So just look out for that. And it's basically, we're collecting essays and we're talking to different people, and we want to hear people's story. We want to know your guys' story and how sports has played either a direct or indirect role on race or racism in your life. Maybe you didn't personally encounter it, but you witnessed it. But you also saw how parents or teammates or the coaches handled it, and how did it affect you? You know, what was the outcome of what you experienced? So I don't know if I butchered that explanation, Matt. You could probably do a lot better than I can. So I'll let you kind of.
Yeah, well, let me give the impetus for this was, it was 2 years ago, and I was going on a Make-A-Wish hike, a 28.3 mile hike in the woods. Not by myself, but I mean, I wasn't with anybody I knew. And so I knew I was going to have lots of thinking time. And I just had a friend visit me at my house in Mooresville. And it was around the time down in Charlotte when there was a white cop shot a black man. And there was a lot of white cops shooting black people in the news back then. And everybody was, now the fire was in Charlotte this time. And it was so close to home. My buddy had been in Charlotte, so he actually saw some of the riots, and then he came up to my house and we sat on my dock and talked about it. And then I went out for a hike. And so it was weighing heavy on my mind, not just because of here in Charlotte, but because it was like the virus, in the media not too long ago. And so what my thinking was, and I'm coming at this from a white guy that grew up in mostly white middle class, lower to middle class neighborhoods. We were in the lower class around the middle class neighborhoods.
Got you. I got you.
But so, I really didn't have much racial interaction until sports. And one of the things, this is my thought. My thought was, in athletics, on my football team, on my basketball teams when I was younger, I could care less the color of my teammates' skin. Right. It was us against them. And I didn't care about the color of their skin either. I played strong safety. If there was a white fullback coming at me, I didn't give him any special consideration because we were in the same race. You didn't think about it.
Right.
So I thought, wouldn't that be great if we had a bunch of retired athletes talking to the youngsters about racial unity? Mm-hmm. Not lecturing them, but talking about, this was my experience, and this is when we were together. And it's not just sports, right? It could also be a symphony, or it could be a group of a rock and roll group. It's when you have a group of people that are aligned for a specific joint purpose, then we don't start talking about divisions. We start talking about, okay, how can we work together? Right. And so it just struck me as it would be a beautiful message. And if there should be a lot of retired athletes that would want to contribute to that message, I would think. And if we can collect essays and we get enough of them that it's interesting, we can develop our website, and we can maybe one day put them all into a book. And maybe, Alexis turns it into a 501(c), and we can start raising money. And then maybe one day we could send athletes from their community, say, okay, would you be willing to go talk to this school with our message? So it's really young. None of us have time to put in it. That's why it hasn't done much for 2 years. We've got about 5 people that are loosely, trying to get something done with it.
Right.
But we'd still love to have your essay right now. We can take essays, and if you're listening and you want to participate, just share a short essay about your time as an athlete, and whether or not we've had some essays that talked about they had to overcome racism as an athlete. And, my essay was about how it didn't matter at all. We don't care what your experience, well, we care, we hope you had a good experience, but there's no litmus test on your essay. You can say what you want and what you feel. It's going to be unvarnished. I think we're not even going to correct grammar, and I think we'll just probably do a little editing for typos, and basically that's about it. So it'll be raw. It'll be just what I think, just what you think, your story. Yeah.
Right.
I think it could be awesome.
No, I'm really excited about it. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm excited, and that's why I want to make sure we actually put it out in the air for everybody.
This is how you make commitment stick. You say it publicly. Now we're in trouble. You just did it.
Now we got to really get on it, which I've been wanting to do a little more. But like you say, everybody just has so much on their plate. But, any of my friends, family, or any of our friends or family that's listening to this, and our fans and followers, if you guys played sports, if you're a retired athlete or a former athlete, a fellow athlete, please contact one of us, hit us up in a DM if you need more, but just a simple short essay like Matt said, and just come help. It's bigger than us, and it's bigger than your essay. So we just want to get to collect as many as possible. So I'm asking y'all to help us with that venture. All right, Bug, you got anything else for us today? Oh, go ahead, Matt, my bad.
What I'll do, maybe, why don't we, you can put on your Facebook page that little outline, because it gave a little context for people to read, and then write their essay from that context. I think that'd help.
For sure.
Okay, perfect, Matt. Thank you for that. We'll do that for sure.
No, I just think, Matt, thank you so much for taking time out of your day For everybody that tuned in live, we appreciate you. The recording of this will also be posted tomorrow on our SoundCloud and YouTube and Facebook. So definitely, if you can tune back in, you have some time, definitely check it out and leave some feedback. So as always, Matt, thank you very, very much. And, for everybody, just be unfiltered in your truth and stay at home.
Stay at home. Y'all have a blessed one.
See you guys.